African, when the Europeans came and they understood that these people had their own level of civilization already in progress, they understood that in the same way that their competitors in Europe, in Eurasia, were actually threatening their own existence, that if they allow these fairly sophisticated, highly sophisticated civilization here to continue to progress and develop at its own rate, that it will get to a point that it will become so sophisticated that it will threaten them, and then we'll go over the sea and conquer them. So they said, we better come back here and then dominate these people. They figured that out. And then in order to dominate them effectively, we have to ensure that they cannot create a future. Now, how best can you make a people not be able to create a future? It is that ensuring that they have nothing to create it from. So how do they do that? They ensure that in the colonial process, you find out that the French use the principle of assimilation. Excuse me. The French used assimilation, where the British used association. Am I correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that process, I think even the French, theirs was more brutal because they had to wipe out everything that you don't even realize that you're even an African in the first place. So both the principle of assimilation and association, if you look at its core level, the way it was actually designed, association and assimilation, it was designed to obliterate memory. It was designed to erase the memory of self-identity, who you are. Go to America, go to Europe, go to any part of the European country, you find out that the people can trace their generation down to the 7th generation. They'll tell you Fitzgerald the third, Fitzgerald the fourth. They will go back down into history. And if you go to their family homes, they have a huge collection and database of the historic records of their people. And even as a culture, they have a huge historical database of their culture. Queen Elizabeth, the Victorian times, Emperor of Rome, Nero, Augustus Caesar, all of that. That is a very huge reservoir of intellectual data, information to create and conquer the world. If you had that rich data, that huge amount of information, you can dominate and conquer any civilization at all. The farther your memory, the deeper your memory, the deeper the reservoirs of your memory, the more advanced your civilization. The deeper and the farther your memory, the more sophisticated your ability to imagine. So if you want to be able to imagine well how to create the future, you want to have a huge reservoir of memory to tap into. So how can the African match the European civilization without a huge database? So how bad is it? How bad is it? It is so bad that the language which we are communicating today does not belong to us. And you don't know how far that goes in the destruction and the disenfranchisement and the disempowering level of that, the level of disempowerment that goes into that. Language is the most complete, the most comprehensive data set of cultural memory that a people can have. Because it is within language that you find culture, you find values, you find norms, you find everything. A lot of things are stored in language. Etiquettes, a whole lot of things. Our forefathers used to transmit culture, traditions through oral language. Now, two ways you can store culture, two ways you can store memory. There is the intra storage, the one that you store within your body, within your own system. So let's say all your works, everywhere that you have a land, everywhere that you have properties, you have them in your mind, you have them in your memory, so you remember them. But this is the somatic version, the somatic storage of memory, so stored within the body. But there's the second. This is the extra somatic, the extra somatic. the extrasensory, where you store the memory in outside of you, in books, in your cultural artifacts, and all of that. So and it's not true that Africans did not have any form of literary or any written form of language and all of that. That's not true. It's only that it was obliterated, it was destroyed. So because it was destroyed, they now said you don't have any form of information that was stored anywhere, written anywhere. But Africans actually did have. We did have, but it was all of them were destroyed. So when you don't have any of that, there's nothing you can. Where are you going to create? So it's a very bleak situation that we are dealing with here. So the language that you're speaking is borrowed from another person. It's another person's culture. It's another because take, for example, when you want to translate, when you want to transcribe a concept from your local language to another language, it loses meaning. You know that. It loses a lot of meaning. And in that process that is losing meaning, you are losing data. And from that data you're losing, you're being disempowered from creating a better future. Because your memories, your information, your data that is stored in your language and all of that is a collection of the experiences of your journey with reality based on your own environment. So when you are deprived of all of that, how can you function in your environment? Had it been the Europeans conquered us and took all of us and then put us in Europe, it will be much better for us because the culture they handed over to us, the memory they handed over to us was the collection of their own experiences of how to thrive in their own environment, not in ours. And every species develops an intelligence that allows it to be able to process its own environment. I define intelligence as the ability to interpret the world accurately and fast. That's what an intelligence is. So if you are existing in Africa, you need an intelligence that is unique to the African experience and reality to be able to process that. If you take a language, a culture, an educational system that has been cultivated and designed for the European environment and you want to bring it into the African environment, you don't have the complete data set, the comprehensive data set that will allow you to decode and interpret your environment. And that is stored in your own language. So when that is taken away from you, how will you process your own environment? You lack the intelligence to do that. I'm an intelligence researcher. My work is focused on helping people learn how to accurately interpret the world and process it. So if that is lost, that is why in my coaching sessions, I start from helping people to understand themselves. Even in the first place, you have to understand who you are. How do you process information? Who are you? How do you interpret the world? That is the first place. You cannot interpret the world from another person's perspective. You cannot live in Aba and you're offering solutions to solving agriculture. And then you are borrowing the template from someone that lives in Zamfara, that is almost desert, or Katsina, that is a dry land. Aba is, a green area. So,
all right, now, Mr. Ugo, let's look at culture. Let's look at it. Yes, I understand that language is an integral part of it, like you already correctly said. Now, in relation to the African identity crisis, which is evident in every way you want to look at it, what role does culture play in building up even that culture, building up even that identity itself? Because now it's not only just the language, but other things included in what is the culture.
Okay, yeah. So culture is, first of all, for you to understand the role that culture plays, you have to understand what culture is in the first place. At a very core level, culture is it's a habit of the mind, gotten from the scripts, the experiences that people, because it's a very rich data set of people's memory. So at an extensive, at a very large level, that its culture includes a lot of things, including the people's very language.